Welcome to our Students of Wisdom Maximum Growth Ask Me Anything for today. How are you? It is so great to be back. I have to say, it has been a little while. We've had a hiatus from this class for a few reasons we're not going to go into, but here we are. I'm grateful that you're here present today, and we have a really interesting, we've got a change in how we're going to do our AMAs from now on. We're going to do a teaching class, give you some content and it's a different topic each and every week, and then we'll also go into asking and answering your questions. So let's get started with our Ask Me Anything for today. The topic that we are covering is intellectualizing the work. And so we're going to have a deep dive into maybe this somewhat of a paradoxical topic, because intellectualizing the work is finding that balance between thinking and feeling and juggling between the two. So first of all, let's understand what intellectualizing is. And so it means essentially us staying in our heads, and we can use that as sometimes a defense mechanism and reasoning and rationalizing and distancing ourselves from our emotions rather than going in and feeling it to be able to hear it. So and given that there's a lot of emotion that we can go through in our life, that we want to sometimes protect ourselves from feeling emotion because it's uncomfortable, it challenges us, maybe it distracts us from our everyday life, maybe there's a lot of other feelings that come up at the same time, so there's just a lot to handle. And so what people can find, what I find anyway, working with clients, is that pre coming into doing and applying the Demartini method, they may have found themselves to be more feely orientated. So hands up if you felt like that way before. And then as you come in and you love the learning aspect of the Demartini method and all the universal principles, and then you start to rationalize things, sometimes we can pendulum swing too much to the other side and then become too heady and too in our analytical mind rather than our feeling mind. And what we essentially want to do is find a beautiful balance between the two. So today I'm going to cover the 3 ways that people intellectualize themselves, and then how to navigate through doing the work. But first of all, why do people intellectualize? Why do they intellectualize in the first place? So first of all, it can be a protective mechanism. So we want to protect our sense of self, or our concept of self. And so we have maybe like a collection of beliefs, the viewpoints of the world. We have ideas about ourselves relative to the outside world. And then we because of that, we end up forming a sense of identity. And then when we do the work and we apply the Demartini method and we shift our perceptions that we have, as a byproduct, your identity is going to change. Your concept of yourself is going to change. And sometimes that's scary and that's challenging to know, well, I don't know what my life is going to be like. And so therefore intellectualizing the work keeps you somewhat safe in that environment, that you then don't have to, you want change, but you're scared of change, essentially. So it doesn't threaten the concept of self. And so that's why some people can intellectualize the work. Some people intellectualize the work because of fear of change. It's that it's easier, like if you heard of the story, if everyone threw in their problems and then you probably still want to get your problems back because they're so familiar, you're so used to them, you wouldn't want really anyone else's problems, even though your problems are challenging. And so we can have this resistance to change, especially when we're dismantling our perception of other people that we've held onto, and it's maybe been somewhat serving us and driving us maybe in our purpose or in our relationships. And so this shift then of being able to apply the work and do the work can mean that we have to somewhat give up our status quo of how we're living our life, and then there's going to be change involved. And so that fear of change can stop us from actually taking action. And therefore, our intellectualizing the work is rooted in that fear of the unknown and the uncertainty that the future brings when we have change. So another can be the reason why people intellectualize the work is also because it is getting you outside of your comfort zone. We like a sense of comfort. It allows us to stay in what's known. It feels safe. You feel in control. And especially if there's control elements maybe in your personality that you want to feel like you've got governance and control over things, then staying in more of that intellectual mind is going to give you more governance and control in your perception anyway. And so then somewhat doing the work or deeply doing the work can maybe be a challenge or potentially even be a threat to that comfort zone. And so the conscious mind tends to run the show, but it also really likes to stay with what's familiar rather than what's unfamiliar. And sometimes applying the work and doing the work leads us into that more unfamiliar zone, which can be challenging for us. And the last I want to cover is can also be known for the intellectualizing. It can also be known as a defense mechanism against pain. And what I mean by that is when we are dealing with emotion that comes up and our perceptions and memories that we have, it's inherently challenging. Let's face it, like if going back to when your childhood and your dad was yelling so much at you that you just had your whole nervous system was in fight and flight mode, you were feeling unsafe. To go back there, it's like, are you crazy? Like that's challenging. That's hard. It's difficult. You have to face some things that you don't necessarily want to face, and that's painful experience that you have to go back into. But we know that as we do the work, it dissolves. But still, that can be so the intellectualizing can be somewhat of a defense mechanism because you don't want to go back there, because you perceive it just to be too painful even to go back there, even though you know the work would heal it and heal that dynamic. It's not enough. So just the idea then of intellectualizing, it gets you that mind perception or illusion that it's balanced, but then it's still running you in your physiology. So it doesn't change the physical sense of balance and equilibrium. It just changes it from a mental sense, and that maybe feels enough, but it's not really deeply doing the work. So there are these few reasons why. Hopefully one of those has resonated. It's like, put your hand up and like, oh my God, that's me. I can definitely see that I've been intellectualizing it at times. So what we want to do is we want to understand the different types of intellectualizing so that you can know then how to go and face or how to work through those intellectualizing of the work. So there's 3 types, and that's analyzing, theorizing, and generalizing. So we'll go into each of those. So first of all, analyzing is our can show up in a few different ways. One can be that self-critique, where let's say that you or the client have been self-critiquing and you don't go to the deeper cause or root what was actually happening, but you stay in that that self-critiquing and dissecting and analyzing the situation, but not actually going into the deeper issue and figuring that out to be able to work through that. So there's one. There's the other intellectualizing can show up, and this is actually I realized this when I was writing this content. I was like, oh my gosh, this was for someone in our business class. I thought, oh, this could be really applicable to them. Is that endless research in terms of when we cover up our need to take action and do the work, and we intellectualize and we analyze information, but we don't take action. So it's like avoiding, it's the gathering of information and the attraction to the information eludes us to think that we're moving forward, but we're not taking the action that's required in order to really truly move forward and to transform that. Then there can be also the analyzing of the overthinking, and so that over analysis paralysis dynamic, where you go back and you think about all the things that have been happening in your past, and that analytical approach to life. Because of that, you you somewhat dissect things logically, but it's not a felt transformation in your body. So those are analyzing. So I don't know if that resonates for you. Maybe it does. Hey, Maureen, it's great to see you. So there are the analyzing. The next is theorizing. So theorizing is this like putting the work into a concept, but not actually applying the work. So, for example, that there might be say justification. Say, for example, you ended a relationship and that relationship ended, and you said, well, the reason why it ended was because we just didn't have the same values, and we didn't have the same vision, and we just couldn't come together. But then that's intellectualizing what actually happened, but not doing the work or even finding the issue and what actually happened, in order to taking accountability to then do the work on your own self of like, what did you bring to the table, or what your perceptions of things, and going to the deeper cause, the deeper root of the issue that caused the lack of communication or the separation of vision together. So that is the theorizing. Another can be that it's say, for example, there are external, let's say, for example, you had a career and you were growing your career, but then you put it into the reason why the career is not going so well is because of the market changing, the industry slowing down, that potentially just other external factors that are playing into the reason why something's going on. And so you're theorizing all the reasons why, outside influence and outside responsibility, rather than going inward and going, I need to take a responsibility and accountability for my life, and then going inward to find it. So it can be the intellectualizing, can be from a theorizing point of view, can be a deflecting of responsibility rather than taking ownership of that. And the last is the generalizing. So they're like just blanket statements that we might make, that we basically avoid us making any decision or making any introspection in what's actually going on for us. And so that can be, say, for example, you have social anxiety and you want to go out, but there's a part of you that says, oh my gosh, I'm really fearful of that. And then you do a blanket statement. It's like, I'm just not good with people. And it makes you feel really uncomfortable. So just a blanket statement of that, instead of going, okay, so what's the deeper problem, going deeper into it, but instead making a generalized statement. So another generalized statement that people can do when intellectualizing the work is that it's just really tough. It's tough to do the work. Maybe business is tough. And that generalized belief that we have basically puts a filter on the world, and then doesn't allow you to go deeper with the work because of those preconceived ideas that you have around what you're working on, or just the work in itself. So maybe some of those resonate for you. So what we want to do is anytime we feel ourselves intellectualizing the work, maybe there are some feedback mechanisms that you can know now that I've given you some information so far, that we want to start going, okay, what do I have to do in order to shift myself when it comes to intellectualizing the work? So the first is we want to, if we have an emotional avoidance trap, which means that we do the intellectualizing because we're trying to avoid feeling anything, then what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to go and appreciate that feelings are fluid. And if you see a child go through their emotions, they go through all their emotions. They don't stay stuck in a emotion. They tend to feel it and fully feel it and then move through it. And so in our personal development work and journey, it is inherently emotional work. You can't do this work and not feel emotion. Our point is to be able to go into our experiences, feel our emotion, go through it, find our perceptions that lead to that emotion, shift our perception, and then our emotion shifts and changes. So by facing our deepest fears and by facing our biggest triggers, we're able to be able to change that and shift our feelings. So now we have a tool to be able to do that. We want to be able to lean more into knowing to fully feel something, find the blessings and the benefits of whatever triggered that feeling inside of you to be able to transform it. So it's working through our emotional avoidance trap and maybe going straight into that. I'm going to feel it because that's where I'm going to be able to heal it. So the other part is in order to shift our mind from intellectualizing to doing the work is we're essentially unpacking the unconscious mind. So if you know that we have our rational mind and our unconscious mind, the rational mind is what you think is driving, but it's not. It's actually our unconscious mind. And so if we stay in our rational intellectual mind, even though we have a drive and desire for wanting to change, because you wouldn't be doing personal development if you didn't want to grow and evolve and transform and do that, then what we want to do is we want to shift at a really deep level so we can change that driver and the governor within us. So we have to go deep for that. We have to go deeper into our psyche and our perceptions in order for something to change. It's actually interesting because one of the individuals inside of our business class has a really high value on learning, and what we discovered last night through our conversation that we were having is around getting them to, because they felt like they had been somewhat avoiding doing the work, like absorbing the information but avoid doing the work. And so one of the questions I had her ask herself was how specifically does it serve her in her learning to do the work? So linking and bridging that so that she could find that self-discovery is such a rich and fulfilling learning journey, equally as much as going and reading information or attending a class. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh my, why can't I sit down and I can do the Demartini method? And whoa, imagine what are the things I could learn about myself. And then how different could that be as a coach and sharing your message and service to the world? So then all of a sudden the value of the value of learning gets met in the discovery of self, which is so beautiful. And so she was able to then begin to shift to maybe take more motor action to start doing the work and applying the work, as opposed to finding herself just stuck in learning without applying. So the other difference is, as we do and we take our work from intellectualizing to deeper, we go from shallow benefit to true transformational growth. And so intellectualizing the work may feel like you're getting your transformation, but it's not really. It's like getting a gym membership and never going, or watching sport on television and then you never doing any sport and moving any of your body. So you don't get the change and the transformation. It's all up here, but it's not in your body. And so what we want to be able to do is we want to take things out from the surface level and be able to go deep. So just discussing ideas about universal principles or divine perfection, or like, I know that there's benefits. That doesn't change the fabric of inside you and your unconscious or your subconscious mind. And so what we want to do is we have to have a drive to want to make that change, because if you don't have a drive, why would you want to go deep? So we would have to find a deeper meaning to do that, and then through our deeper meaning, we can then go and do the work and have a bigger drive to go do the work, because it's a higher value for us. We find more purpose and meaning in it. We love the journey. I know personally, I love the, I'm not focused on the outcome. I'm focused on the journey and the discovery of self along the path. And it's like, well, what are, like, I was having a moment the other day in the shower, because I love my shower power. And I had this like one connection that came through of the reason why some of my behaviors, I do some of the things I do. And it was this experience that I had when I was a child, or a couple of experiences that I had as a child. It was always like this cascade of like, oh, now I get all of this. I get why I do what I do because of those experiences. It was almost like cascading. I was like, whoa, that's a beautiful discovery that I have not had ever in my life, that all of a sudden it came together. So that journey is so beautiful. And so the journey to get there has been beautiful. The realization was beautiful. And so we have to have a deeper reason why you want to go into more discovery of yourself and deeper discovery of yourself. So maybe from listening in today. Hopefully this has been valuable information. Hopefully you can take some of this away from with you, so that when you go to apply the work, you can apply it more deeply. If one thing you can take away from today, and you ask yourself, like, why do I want to do deeper work? Why do I want to shift from the intellectual and really having it as a mind, body, a felt mental experience, and have a balance between that, and go deep with the work? Maybe if you just answer that, why do I want to do that, that will be half your battle. Not that it's a battle, but half the transformation for you in being able to shift from doing the intellectualizing the work to just doing the work. So hopefully you found this valuable. If you have, love to hear your comments below. I appreciate you listening in. So